Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to the Audacity School podcast, like the positive cast.
Hey, positive,
It's
positive.
right. The Audacity School podcast with Desiree Co-Crop with Destination Life. And this is
I am Erica Lynette with Divinement, and we are here today to discuss the impact of internalized stereotypes on women of
Hmm.
color. So, as I always say, this is going to be a good one.
and you actually always say that.
I really do.
You are consistent. So we want to start out by really understanding what internalized stereotypes are.
Mhm.
Everybody might have their own definition, but our working definition for today is internalized stereotypes are like the negative beliefs, right? The negative beliefs
Mhm.
and perceptions that individuals like us have. And it's typically something that a lot of times affects marginalized groups. We may
Mhm.
internalize these things about ourselves. Other groups obviously can still have the same thing, but because we serve a lot of women of color, we're
Mhm.
specifically talking about marginalized groups that we might internalize, right? A lot of the stereotypes that are out there based on what we think other people think.
Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
these stereotypes that are out there for women of color, these stereotypes could include, beliefs about how smart we are, our intelligence. It can be about our competence or capabilities to do a thing, our worthiness,
Mm.
our value. And what's interesting is that sometimes because we are all human beings, when we actually see something that is aligned to that stereotype, it we further internalize it, like, yep, see, that's true.
Mhm.
When in actuality, it's a circumstance that can be
Yeah.
isolated and is not always true for us, but we even come to believe some of the stereotypes that are out there with us, and we've internalized it to be true. And it's so much that has to happen to overcome that. And I know, and as we talk today, I'm sure myself and Erica will share ones that
Yeah.
we have dealt with over the years, but really understanding that something that is a stereotype can be something that we internalize as true for ourselves,
Mhm.
as well as for anyone that looks like us in any form or fashion.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're so right, Desiree. And when we talk about, understanding that, we also have to talk about, overcoming that, because when we overcome those stereotypes, that's what we need in order to have the self-confidence and in order to achieve the professional and personal success that we're looking for. And a lot of that starts with, negative thoughts that we internalize, like you were saying. And we take those on and we own them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that we're going to unpack during this conversation. But we have to first recognize when we start taking on those negative thoughts, and just start consciously challenging them. Quite frankly, as you talked about, are they true? Is this a fact, or is this a feeling? And then
Right.
really just look at the steps that we can take to really just retrain our mind, and
Mm-hmm.
just recalibrate our mindset, so to speak. Because the more we practice it in real time, the more it's going to become a habit. So we just have to put
Yeah.
those healthy practices in place.
Woo, and that's half the battle.
I know it's a big battle, but yeah,
It's a huge battle. So,
yeah.
as we talk today, we just want you to make sure, again, reflect, right? Reflect on,
Hmm.
especially as you just even heard the words internalized stereotypes, and just as we're talking about understanding it, reflect on what is a negative stereotype that you've internalized.
Yeah.
Whether currently maybe it's one that you're dealing with or one in the past about yourself, and then you get some time later, or even now, if you have your notebook open, write it down, right? And then write, what is a counter statement that actually affirms your true value and worth
Yeah.
and debunks
Hmm.
this said stereotype or internalized stereotype about ourselves. And
Yeah.
when we talk about these things, it's beyond just even our physical features. Sometimes
Hmm.
immediately it's the color of our skin or our hair or the things that we feel about ourselves, but it could be what people may think about people that look like us that are not
Hmm.
physical features about what
Right.
we believe about ourselves. And so just really kind of thinking about, well, what are some of those things that you noticed that you might have been holding on to, or you noticed that you've been thinking about yourself lately, and some of it is so unconscious that we don't even realize it until something happens and we're like, ooh, did I
Yes.
think that about me?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So as you take some time to reflect on that, we're going to also jump into some of the effects of these, of self-perception and confidence. When we talk about internalizing these stereotypes, because we know they definitely impact us as women of color. They impact our abilities even, because sometimes we can get to a point where if we internalize them, then we may get stuck or we may shut down, and it may lead to self-doubt, imposter syndrome, a reluctance to fully express oneself. So we really want to be mindful of the additional domino effect that can happen when we start internalizing these things. I remember when I was in corporate America. Seems like such a long time ago, but don't miss that. But anyway, I do remember, there was a situation where I was leading an administrative support team. They were not happy that, I mean, I was a young Black girl. They were old enough to be my mom. And here I am leading these women. And there were some, definitely some transition challenges. Well, I went to one of the vice presidents who was responsible for putting me in that position. And I was sharing some information with him and some concerns I had. And he brought up, in response to me expressing my concern, he mentioned something to the effect of angry Black woman, pretty much telling me,
oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am. And I mean, it really took me aback too. And I'm like, I mean, but instead of addressing it in that moment, I internalized it. I was thinking like, I mean, am I coming off angry? Like, what did I say? And I just started analyzing, because I'm already an analyzer. And so it's like I started internalizing it instead of just addressing the fact that just because I express a concern doesn't mean I'm an angry Black woman. That's
Right.
what the issue was. So, we have to just be mindful of separating the facts from what is, or the what we perceive as factual, which may not be, from what is actually the truth.
Yeah, no, that's really good. You made me start thinking about times where I have had to overcome this thought that, not but I'm saying because you probably do, because I don't know if you do. But typically in Black communities, we are taught to be more excellent than anyone else, to do the best that we can, because it's going to be so much harder for us, right? Yeah. And so it's a stereotype that we have to work harder, and we have to do things better. And that's the only way that we can excel. And so we can internalize that as having to be a hyperachiever, and being stressed is a normal thing. And having to, go over and beyond, and being anxious about whether you're going to get a thing is something that comes with just being Black. So sometimes you just, I recall over the years just finding myself stressed in situations that I think would be stressful for anyone, but feeling like I was carrying this weight of my whole people with me to be good at this. Like, if I'm not, then this is going to make all of us look bad.
Right.
So
that's right. Yeah.
Is that internalized thing. So, I mean, even overcoming self-doubt, because there are times when I didn't do as great at something, and it would look like, especially if I was one of the few women of color, being afraid of, if I messed up, what do these people now think of Black people? What do they think about Black women? And sometimes it didn't matter. And when I say these people, I mean even other Black people.
Right.
I mean, whoever is around, because we just have these same stereotypes toward each other.
That's right.
It's true. So it's just so interesting. So like overcoming self-doubt and wondering if we're enough, that whole imposter situation that's out here in the streets, right? Wondering if we're enough, and some of that comes from internalizing some of these things. And so, if we can have more fulfillment and success, a lot of that is going to come from overcoming these things. And practicing self-affirmations, really feedback, right, from trusted sources. And a lot of self-validation, because some of our validation, most of our validation, even from elementary school up, we're looking at it from other people. And it's just you look for validation, because there's so much in a lot of different cultures. Honestly, there's so much internal stereotypes that we have about our own cultures, and we can re-emphasize it and we can project it on each other. And I just remember even being a kid, like, don't do that because you don't want to look like this. Right. This is like, oh snap, okay. And so, really seeking feedback from trusted sources, but also, check where you're getting that feedback from. When I say trusted, we immediately go to people that are our loved ones. And although we may trust them in some areas, when you're looking to get another perspective or affirmation or what have you from someone else, just find a source that has a sense of some well-being, so to speak. And not that your family doesn't, and not that some of your friends that don't, because sometimes if we search within our own circles, and we got people in our own circles that have the same issue.
That's
So
true.
sometimes we have
We
to
don't
kind
talk
of
about
like,
it as much, but
we have to kind of venture outside of that, and then really just setting like achievable goals for ourselves. Just our ways to kind of get to a place of having a healthier self perspective. I mean, a self perception. Like if we want to have a healthier self perception of ourselves, like that's a great way to do it. Just to practice setting some goals that are way more achievable. Because especially like I was saying, we could put this pressure on ourselves to be perfect and whatever that means, right? Or to operate at a certain level. And it actually is counterintuitive. It doesn't actually help. So,
it doesn't. No.
Setting achievable things can help us, really build our confidence in that area, really help us overcome some of the self-doubt that comes with, some of this stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. So as we think about, audacity in action, what we want you to do in this regard, in this area, is to identify one area of your life where you would say that you've held back. You should have done something differently, or you could have done something differently, but you held back due to some internalized stereotype that you had. And then just take a small step to challenge yourself, challenge that belief. And then just, think about how you could be more assertive, in that area going forward. And then that way you won't, continue the cycle. We're always talking about taking small steps in order to affect bigger change, down the road, long-term change. So, just take some time to think about that, reflect and identify just one area this week.
No, that's good. I love that. And picking that one area, because we can be all over the place.
Right. Just start with one. I mean, if you
Number
one, you can do some more.
Baby steps. And don't judge whatever you choose. Just choose something that you're okay with, looking at. Yeah. So when we talk about overcoming internalized stereotypes, so we talked about the effects of it, but when we talk about overcoming it, it's really about getting self-aware. We talk about self-awareness a lot, right? And self-awareness leads to authenticity. We talk about that a lot in the Audacity School, but having a lot of self-awareness and developing self-awareness, being intentional about self-awareness, committed to challenging those beliefs when you see them come up instead of ignoring it. Or even shaming ourselves. All because you're self-aware doesn't mean you get to shame yourself and feel bad and like, why am I doing this? You don't have to why yourself to death, but you do get to understand like, oh, okay, I acknowledge that. I see where that comes from. Like, and just really dealing with it from that perspective versus a shaming perspective, because it's really about recognizing that stereotypes are not a reflection of reality. They're not a reflection of reality. It's something that it's a construct. We've made that up about things ourselves, and it's not it's just not even rational that everybody that's this is this like at all, right? And actively working to change them is going to help you have a better sense of reality.
Yeah, exactly. And the ultimate goal is to unlock our full potential, because we're trying to thrive in all areas of our lives. We're not just trying to
we ain't even trying. We thriving all day.
In the streets, in these Audacity streets, we're thriving. And so, as we talk about overcoming, these stereotypes, engage in activities, think of different activities that can help you reinforce, a positive self-image. And a lot of this stuff that we're talking about it just deals with alignment. I know I'm jumping ahead. We're going to get there in just a second. But, I just love it because, it's talking about, reinforcing, positive self-image, seeking diverse perspectives, when we're thinking about mindset and different things like that. And then, of course, like Desiree said, challenging those stereotypes when you encounter them, when we do these things, that's how we're going to build up that resistance. That's how we're going to strengthen, our resilience muscle, so to speak, and just position ourselves to succeed. So, it's just taking that, again, taking those baby steps, but being intentional about actually doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And one way that you can practice, because we always want to give you some practices, is, practicing positive affirmations like on a regular basis. And when we talk about affirmations, when I say we, I mean, just in general, right? In the world, when we talk about affirmations, most times we talk about it from the perspective of, say it every day, but we don't always talk about believing it.
That's
right.
right.
And so it's something to be said about, we want you to write some positive affirmations, to repeat them out loud daily. Pick 3 positive statements that you want to say about who you are, and say it every day, but say it with an energy of belief behind it, and not just this, statement that you're saying habitually, because those things don't work if you actually don't believe it. So you want to convey this feeling of belief behind what you say, and keep saying it until that feeling happens. But it's even better when you can create that feeling and find yourself believing the thing that you're actually saying, and that will definitely make a difference in the way that you feel about yourself and how you kind of start perceiving what you're seeing in the world. You'll start seeing things differently.
Exactly. And as we touched on just a little bit earlier, when we think about overcoming, these internalized stereotypes, it really does start with alignment, and we know that that's one of the pillars of the Audacity School, alignment. That's the first one, because you have to be, or we have to be aligned and aware of, where we are, how we see ourselves, how we think, all of those things in order to get to the other steps, in order to be audacious. And so, we want to, develop a mindset and a posture to where we're embracing alignment and authenticity, because that's what's going to be key to overcoming these stereotypes. Because when we align our actions with our values, and then, express our true self, we're going to be able to do so without fear of judgment. We're going to be able to do that authentically. So.
No, that's so good. It makes me think about when you align, when you're embracing alignment and authenticity, it keeps you from feeling like you have to do more, right? And so kind of like I was talking about earlier, like the feeling of, if I'm the only one, whatever only, it can be a lot of different kinds of onlys. If I'm the only in the room, I don't have to prove myself, you know what I mean, to anyone, because if I don't, then I won't. Like, that's such a scarcity mindset that really was kind of embedded in some of our cultural experiences and exchanges, and aligning with knowing that I am worthy, I am valuable, I have already done all the things, and I don't have to perform a certain way in order to get anything. It definitely game changing. Girl, I think I probably don't share this on here, but I've shared it on posts on LinkedIn. The job that I quit after 4 months. Then I was so heartbroken because it was that dream job, and I felt like I couldn't be my full self in that space. And now here I am, a decade plus and then some change later, and I am being paid to be myself. You know what I mean? Whereas before I was being paid to try to do it differently, and almost being scolded for who I was. And I'm like, ooh, no, thank you. It is nothing like being able to be your full self.
It's liberating.
Right. And when your full self does nothing but bring, joy, lights, love, all the things, like, it doesn't even make sense. So anyway, because I'll keep going, but but I'm just like, it's nothing like it. So embracing that, right? Accepting ourselves, right? Like, so when we start aligning our actions with our values and really embracing our authentic self, right? That's the part. You can really lead, right, with much greater confidence than you may be doing right now, much greater fulfillment than you might be right now, and really identifying your core values. Like, when you identify your core values, like, if I really value being able to be myself, right? Being able to be impactful. Like, I think if being yourself doesn't harm you and other people, go for it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't physically or mentally harm you and other people. Like, otherwise we probably need to talk to some people, right? And that doesn't mean everybody's not gonna like you and all of that, for those that are skeptics. But it does mean, like, we want to, I want to put some context on that, right?
Right.
Right. Be yourself, but don't be out here, like, doing stuff that's wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, be nothing people. Like, what are we doing?
And don't tell them that the Audacity School sent you to do
Exactly. When they say be yourself, I gotta be myself, right?
Right.
Don't do that. But identifying your core values and really evaluating if your actions align with them. Like, okay, are your actions aligning? If you really believe that you want to be authentic and you find yourself not being authentic in this space because you have internalized a stereotype about yourself and you don't feel safe enough to really be your whole self in that space, well then, okay, I need to have some action aligned with that. I need to say something to someone, or I need to remove myself from this space, right? And so those things, and then practicing like self-compassion, right? Because you know, sometimes, and we've shared a lot of different stories that we have had, even the one you just shared, Erica, right? Being compassionate with yourself about how you even address that at, you know, young in your career, right? Because sometimes we'll go years later and we still shame ourselves for not saying something or doing something a certain way. So really practicing self-compassion and self-acceptance, which we've been saying, right? How can we make sure we accept ourselves in much greater ways than we do now? And doing a little bit every day, and that helps us overcome internalized stereotypes and overcome, you know, even anything beyond that as it relates to things that contribute to our self-doubt.
Right. No, completely agree. And so as we again look at, you know, audacity in action, you know, we want you to share your story with someone that you trust. And I think this is going to be something that's really powerful, because a lot of times we really underestimate the power of our stories. And a lot of times we don't think we really have that much to share. So, you know, take an opportunity to share your story. You know, talk about a time when you overcame something that was challenging, or where you achieved the goal, you know, despite facing some kind of internalized stereotype. You know, there's power in that. And believe it or not, there's going to be something that encourages that person and helps them to see a different perspective and see something that they can possibly improve upon themselves. So, you know, take that step this week.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And so before we wrap up, we always want to know. Oh, it's so fast. Like you always say it's going to be good, and then we get to the end, you're like, oh, it's so fast, right? So before we wrap up, we have, you know, a challenge, right? A challenge this week. And this is just reminding us of some of the things we already said, but remember to identify that one area in your life. Remember, you only have to pick one. Don't overwhelm yourself. That you've been held back, right, by as it relates to internalizing some kind of stereotype about yourself. And then just take a small step, right, to challenge that belief and assert yourself in that area. So when you feel it happening, you know, obviously judge if you feel like you're in a safe space, but, you know, we challenge you to assert, you know, yourself in that area, whether it's something that you have to assert yourself, like take an action that doesn't require like verbal communication. Because sometimes it's us doing a thing, and then sometimes it's us saying a thing, and sometimes it's saying and doing a thing. Right. Or when we're in the midst of something, thinking a thing differently, right? So challenging that belief by thinking a thing, which will cause us to act in different ways. So we want to challenge you to do that.
Yeah. Desiree always comes with the action, and then I always come with the reflection piece. So, you know, as you go over this next week, just reflect on an experience that you had, or even just your experiences in general when it comes to overcoming, you know, these internalized stereotypes. You know, take some time to really sit in that moment and think about, you know, how did I feel, you know, as I internalized these stereotypes. You know, what did it make me feel? What did I feel? How did I react? Was what happened factual, or was it truly just, you know, something that was a feeling, you know, or was it someone's opinion? You know, really take some time to think about that and challenge yourself to identify, you know, what beliefs you had and how you asserted yourself or how you didn't. And then that will help you to see, you know, different things you can do to improve upon in the future, you know, as you go forth and start, you know, asserting yourself more, and also not internalizing those stereotypes in the future.
Yeah. And I loved how you said making sure it's factual, right? Like check the facts. Check the facts. I love that. All right. So again, as we wrap up, you know, just make sure you remember that overcoming internalized stereotypes is really a journey, right? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that we have to be intentional about, as is all things in human behavior. And it really requires, like most things, self-awareness, a lot of self-compassion, like forgiving yourself for today and all the days before and even the days ahead. And then really a commitment to change.
Yes, absolutely. And we also want to, you know, emphasize that, by challenging these negative beliefs, embracing authenticity and just practicing being assertive, we as women of color can start breaking free, from those limitations that we put on ourselves, those self-imposed limitations,
Yeah.
and just internalizing these stereotypes, because that's what we're trying to get to, that place of liberation. Like Desiree was talking about how freeing it was when she left her job and started really doing the work that fed her soul. So, that's the point we're trying to get to. And that's what we're going to try to help you with as you continue your journey of audacity, of being audacious.
Because that's what you are.
That's right. You absolutely are. So that's all for today. Again, I'm Erica.
Oh, Erica, did I lose you? She was just giving us our end. So sorry we lost you, Erica. Oh, wait, she's back. I'm like, what happened, Erica? You were gone. We're still live. I'm like, what happened? Come back.
I'm over here still talking.
Wait, I don't have you on the screen.
I'm just talking.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm like, okay, there we are.
I was not trying to make an early departure. I was not trying to exit.
Funny.
I'm just talking away, honey.
Because you know what? I wanted to make sure that you said something about your event next week.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was closing us out. I didn't even realize I was gone, honey.
And I was like, "Wait, Erica, you're gone. What's happening?" It was only a couple seconds, but no. Make sure you say something about your event next week. We got to tell people.
Yes. So we have to tell the people there is Yes Summit for Women, which stands for yield, expect, and serve. And this is all about having a foundational relationship with God and really giving our yes to God. Desiree is going to be one of the fabulous speakers. Whoop, whoop. She is going to be speaking on serving and how we give our yes by, through service. And so we're going to have some wonderful speakers, again, talking about yielding, expecting, serving, and then the cost of saying no when we don't give our yes to God. Ooh. So I'm really excited about that. We do have a few seats left. Yep. If anyone is interested, feel free to DM me. I will look. I didn't know Desiree was going to do this.
I know. I did put you on the spot.
I could definitely could have had the link.
We'll put the link in the chat when we hang up. Yeah.
We will make sure that we put the link in the chat. But yes, we definitely are still accepting registrations right now. They will close off on Monday. So be sure you get in person. This is in person in Charlotte, North Carolina. Absolutely. Yes, so if you're here, if you want to fly in, come on. We would love
North Carolina. Let's go. So we'll be in Charlotte next week. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure we said something.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's gonna be amazing, and we need to tell the people.
It is.
So do you want to sign off for real?
Yeah, I guess we can sign off for real, because I thought I had closed us out already, but I didn't know I was already gone. So thank you all for joining us again with the Audacity School. Come back next week. We're going to have another, exciting topic to really delve into. I'm Erica Lynette, and this is
Desiree Cocroft, and this has been the Audacity School. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll see you in Charlotte as well.
Yes. All right.